Thanks so much for being here. We have a pretty busy program tonight. I'm Marcus Dekenah. I'm the co-chair of the Loan Research chapter. And my other team members for the EXCO of the Loan Research chapter is here this evening. We've got Tristan, who's on our committee from Lloyd. If you can raise your hand, please. Lloyd Setloffel. Mandy Stoney. Mandy next to Lloyd there. And then Mike is kind of a covert member of the research chapter. He's the one that causes the trouble.
Yeah, no, it was.
So, thanks. This evening, the program is going to be, we will just quickly do the safety briefing, then Leonetti will give us a welcome from the SAIEE, and then we'll get on into the program with the individual presentations and followed by discussion. Did you force this?
If that's fine.
Yes. If you can maybe control the microphones.
Will disadvantage the panelists a bit. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Lange and I'm the CEO of the South African Institute of Electrical Engineers. So on behalf of the SAIEE, I would like to welcome you here. And we are here at the behest of the Load Research chapter. And maybe just to put a bit of a flavor on what we do. We are a networking platform, essentially. We would like to believe that everything electrical engineering has to be asked through us, because we have members in various fields of electrical engineering doing business in different industries, for that matter. So we have various sections and chapters, about just over 5 chapters. So these are major or bigger subsets of in the different electrical engineering subjects, if one can call it that. But then under each one of those, we've got chapters, and one of the sections that falls under this is power and energy, which the Load Research chapter falls under. So in essence, what we say is, if you are within the electrical engineering or electronic engineering, or even a friend thereof, you don't necessarily have to be in the industry. If you are in the industry in any way involved, you have a home here. We welcome and come and be our member. We've got different membership grades, and you are welcome. So do feel welcome, and that's why we are here. We promote electrical engineering and all the different subjects that are related to it. So welcome all. It's a welcome relief that we've had to throw away the masks, and so we're getting into the groove of how things work without masks. And relax, feel free, and very welcome. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, folks. So the way that we came in contact with the EPC dialogue and the regulations were that we were in contact with Barry Burdenkamp, and we saw that SANEDI was busy putting up getting the regulations passed, and it came into the media, and I guess you all saw the media releases, and that has implications for several bodies. It has implications for SANEDI, who has to administer the energy performance certificates. It has implications for the building owners and managers who have to follow the law and manage that process internally from their side. And then it also has implications on the job creation side, and who is going to do the administration of these measurements and so on in the field, and how are we going to assure the quality and so on. So this evening we have people from all of those spheres, and then we also have Mike Walker, who is a sort of a practicing energy engineer. I would guess you can accuse him of that. And so I think we've got a fairly well-rounded representation here. And let's then get into it. First, our first order of battle will be an upfront presentation by each of the interested and affected parties. And then we can move on to having some discussion and debate and perhaps planted questions as well about the scheme and really unpack it and understand what the implications are. Okay, so first of all, I'd like to invite Teslim Yusuf from SANEDI. Teslim is a acting general manager of SANEDI, and if you look at his bio, he is also an electrical engineer, so most well at home here. And he is also somewhat of a project managing professional. So Teslim, I welcome you, and let's hear what SANEDI's position is. Thank you. In 5 minutes.
Thank you very much, Marcus. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for finding time to join us this evening. I must say, first of all, I have someone very important that is missing from this meeting. That's Barry Bredenkamp. Barry Bredenkamp has driven energy efficiency in South Africa for many years. And right now, he's going through his own personal battles with his health. So, and he's very instrumental, I must say to you, for why we're sitting here today. And it's quite emotional to, sit in his place and stand in his position. My position at SANEDI is smart distribution networks. That's your distribution networks in municipalities' electricity. And then I also work on the energy efficiency side, where I look at particular projects that you could, demonstration projects that could move South Africa in that direction of energy efficiency. But the topic that brings us today is EPCs, and that's your energy performance certificates. That's a regulation coming from the Department of Mineral Resources and Energy, and there's a reason why that regulation is in place. It's not new. It's not a new regulation. A lot of people seem to think it's new. It's been running since we had the energy crisis in South Africa from 2008. And energy efficiency is seen as the first fuel, or your first option before you start to bring in any other interventions on the grid. I mean, we're all going through load shedding right now, but we understand that buildings of certain classifications are really energy guzzlers. They consume a lot of electricity energy. And energy performance certificates are there in place to be able to move these buildings into better performance. That's in the long run. And all of this connects back to your greenhouse emissions, reduction in greenhouse emissions. South Africa is one of the largest emitters of greenhouse gases on the continent, and in the world, maybe the 12th. And you could see the situation that South Africa is going through. You talked about job creation. You have to transition in a just manner. And energy performance certificates came out as a regulation in 2020. I'm sorry I do not have a presentation. I'm standing it from someone at the last minute yesterday, and I chose not to put a presentation. I always like to really understand my audience before I put anything out there. So I'll try to speak about the topic freely. So as I'll say, in 2020 December, the regulation came out. SANEDI is the South African National Energy Development Institute. SANEDI is a Schedule 3A entity. In some areas, you call it a parastatal. So SANEDI is the research arm of the Department of Mineral Resources and Energy. And we sort of focus on demonstration projects, focused research that informs policy. So we are the ones supposed to administer your National Energy Building Performance Register. That is the register that different stakeholders are supposed to use to have access to the whole of the EPC's process. So there are two processes on the EPC stuff that SANEDI is supposed to administer. One is to issue out those unique numbers that allows a building to have a certificate in front of it that specifies the building's performance. And the second function is to hold on to that data for research purposes, the research data around the building's performance. And as the regulation moves forward over time, you would find out that we hope to be able to enforce that buildings get more energy efficient as they grow older. I'm talking to the learned colleagues here, We have regulation already, standards already in this space. You have your standards around new buildings being built. We have standards around appliances within those buildings being efficient. Those things are already out there. So EPCs is targeted at your existing building stock, and it deals with particular buildings of certain classifications. Those classifications are well noted. SANEDI in this space has dealt with what you call an energy performance guideline. The guideline is for a broad array of stakeholders. Can I have indications of anyone in this room that has come across the energy performance guideline released by SANEDI? It's on our website. We've shared it with a broad array of stakeholders. It tells us that we're not doing enough. Well, the guideline is out there. It's for technical and non-technical people. Now, you have what you call the accreditation bodies in South Africa, and you have what you call your SANEDI accredited inspection bodies for EPCs. There are only about 8 of them right now in the country, and they've already started carrying out these exercises. We have about 130 buildings across the country. Most of them are situated in the Western Cape they have certificates for their buildings. We expect to have a roadshow coming up from the 1st of August to be able to drive that awareness. I mean, it's shocking sitting down in this room, and most colleagues have not come across the EPC guideline, which I think should be your first contact document before you go into standards and regulation. So there's a lot of things happening, but we must tell ourselves the truth. And the truth is that when government drives things, sometimes we do not do these things very well. And mixing up with stakeholders like yourself gives us that ability to be able to correct ourselves in our gaps. I mean, I've had a lot of discussions. I've met Daniel and other colleagues in different forums. So there's a lot going on. SANEDI is just one part of that value chain. And I would say to you, we have the inspection bodies in place, and we recently did a project with your Institute of Energy Professionals, IEPA. We had a project with them where we brought in electricians, and we were able to skill them up to be able to also support with the collection of data. Data collection for this exercise is going to be one of the most critical things we're going to go through as an industry. And we worked with IEPA in training 50 professionals in this space. We have them now in different mentorship programs with inspection bodies supporting them. So I think I'm really looking forward to the discussions today. Try and see if we can learn more. I'll talk to you later on as we go along about the building register. That register is supposed to be an automated register with web access. But as we speak, it's a manual process right now at SANEDI where we use it. It's Excel based. You know, that's a gap, but we're trying to close those gaps. So there's a lot of things happening in the process, but we're learning and we're out there to try to reduce the energy consumption in buildings. And these buildings I was talking about are 2, public buildings and also privately owned buildings. So back to you, Marcus.
Okay. Thank you very much. Our next speaker is Yolanda from IEPA, and Yolanda looks smaller than her CV. So she hides many things. Let me just say that she's the founding director of the Institute of Energy Professionals Africa. She's served on the board of the AEE, is it?
Yeah.
And that includes the certification programs and so on and so on. So there's a lot going on there, because you know the AEE's done a lot of training within South Africa. And she has currently the project coordinator for SANEDI for the IEPA EPC practitioner skills program. So all of the skills that we are looking to get these certifications in progress, or the measurements in progress, and the certifications issued, falls to one person who's administering the whole thing. So congratulations. I'll turn over to you.
Thanks. Can everybody hear me?
Just close.
Okay. Okay, I'm also an ex-employee of the SAIEE. So, I mean, 27, 28 years ago. And Gerda was my neighbor, so I've come a long way as well. Okay, you could skip the slide. As he said, we represent the Association of Energy Engineers in Africa. We present the certified energy manager, certified energy auditor, certified measurement and verification professional. We've developed 27 local qualifications for various countries in Africa, and we have turnkey capacity building projects that we do, of which one has been the EPC practitioner. Next slide, please. So first of all, when the regulation came out, we had to very quickly jump into action, and we had to decide, okay, right, what training is required, what skills are required. So first document to visit is the South African National Accreditation System technical requirements document that says for a person to sign an EPC certificate, they need to be trained in ISO 17020, the standards 15414, 400XA, as well as understand the Energy Act and the EPC regulations. So then looking at what else do they need? They need further studies in energy engineering, amongst others, and dependent on their position within the company, whether they're quality manager, technical manager, or an inspector or technical signatory, if you want to call that. Most of them require the certified energy manager, but there is now a shortage of those skills. Then we looked and said, all right, those people have got experience, but they now need training, and some courses were developed regarding SANAS as well as the EPCs, short courses for those experts to upskill them to become part of an inspection body. IPA, as well as the South African Energy Efficiency Confederation, had some courses out. Green Building Council of South Africa has some workshops out. Various inspection bodies do training. Green Building Council of South Africa has a program towards upskilling and incubating small businesses to become inspection bodies, and at the same time also audit buildings to be certified. So there's a funded project there. And then SANAS has the 17020 training that they do. Next slide, please. So the industry structure, so that's our high-level people. And looking at the market, there's not many people that can fill that role as per the SANAS requirements. And the way it was structured initial was inspection bodies will be doing everything for EPCs. But to achieve the number of buildings that need to be done and to leverage the regulation and show government that we will actually be looking at women in energy, we will be looking at upskilling into the green industry, that youth will be involved. We said, right, let's develop a lower level, entry level to support the inspection bodies. Because a lot of it is very much donkey work, and it's donkey work that teaches you the very basics you need to make a success in the green skills environment. So then we developed the QCTO qualification with a project funded by GIZ and SANEDI, which has some of the fundamentals in there, incorporating as the final outcomes that you can use the fundamentals of energy and energy management to have an energy performance certificate outcomes. That has been registered. So that is just the ladder to where they can go. Do you have an electrician, somebody with a basic engineering background? And they follow all those steps towards the EPC, and they get their QCTO qualification. Next. Then we've upskilled colleges, lecturers to be able to provide it as well. So there are other skills development providers as well. And that's basically the career path towards energy performance certificate inspection body requirements. You can do the basics, get some experience, and then go for your technical signatory and inspector type positions eventually. Next slide, please. Then basically the EPC is a perfect entry level to build on top of that other skills to eventually work in industrial companies, to building energy audits, to implement projects, to energy management systems, to measurement and verification, whatever you feel you want to become an expert in. It's a nice career path to show where you can go. And it aligns to what the EPC does. The EPC is the first step towards making your building more efficient. Then you go in and you do a different qualification that's already available called Building Energy Auditor. You go and audit the building to see what projects you can implement. Then you go to your energy systems training, where you now go and you optimize each system within the building. And all of this then leads to renewable energy with jobs in all those various types of industries, in properties, ESCOs, consulting, solar installations, whatever your knack is. Next slide, please. So it's easy to upscale programs like that. You have your basic level, your higher level advanced training for those people, and then you have your beginners, and the one supports the other. And that is the only way you can really upscale this to make a success of it. There are about 1,000 students we could start with literally tomorrow that already have the basics in place. Just to go through the assignment, and in 3 months you could have 1,000 young people, women, that can actually go out and start collecting data. So there's no excuse there's no skills available. There's no excuse that there aren't opportunities to grow those skills at a very big, quick scale. Employment opportunities, property development, government, electrical contractors, solar installers, inspection bodies, government, facilities management companies. It's really just this first stepping stone. The EPC just provides a perfect opportunity to enlarge the Greensfields programs. And basically, throughout this whole project, what do you think was the largest hurdle in executing the capacity building program? Can anybody tell me what they think? What was the largest hurdle in us achieving this? We wrote the qualification in a month. We registered in 3 months. We kicked off the project a month later. We had 50 students interviewed, working. 3 months later, they had EPC'd 44 buildings. What do you think was the largest problem?
Funding.
No.
Paid.
No, building owners weren't interested to have their buildings audited for free.
There must be something wrong with it if it's free.
So, yeah. So we've made it available to building owners. They just not coming to the party to support it. So that was our biggest hurdle, and I know the Green Building Council has exactly the same problem.
Whereas one of the problems is approved drawings. You have to have approved drawings for that building. Because I know that there are a number of people that don't.
Yeah.
Could I ask that we defer this to the discussion section? Thank you. Continue.
I'm done, yeah.
Okay, thank you. Well, I'm glad that you ended off on this this point about building owners not doing their jobs, because the
I
very
didn't say
next
that.
person,
Don't put words in my mouth.
all in good jest, the very next person that we have up is Daniel Grewan. Daniel is the Sustainability Manager Projects for Growthpoint Properties. He's got extensive experience in green building certifications, alternative energy, energy efficiency, water efficiency. He's spent a lot of his career in sourcing stuff for implementation of systems in buildings. And interestingly, he's the guy that we all look to for climate change. He's got a BSOC geography with environmental management. So we'll look forward to that in future. Cool. Thank you. And Daniel is busy, he's doing a lot of project management and currently busy studying for an MBA. Daniel also project managed the first 5-star green building contact center in South Africa. So, Daniel, with that, we look forward to hearing what you have to say. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Marcus. Yes, so today in my capacity, I'll actually be representing SAPOA, which stands for South African Property Owners Association. Currently sit as the Vice Chair of the SAPOA Sustainability Committee as well. And so I will be representing SAPOA and all land, private land, landlords or property owners. Just a little bit of background on SAPOA. SAPOA was established in 1966 and basically leads the largest property investment organizations altogether as a single role player. SAPOA manages or has a combined portfolio across South Africa of around 500 billion rand. And SAPOA members currently control around 90% of all commercial and industrial property in South Africa. Getting into the EPCs, so firstly and I just want to say straight off the bat, from a landlord perspective, it is definitely something that we feel is a step in the right direction. It's definitely something we feel that we want to comply with, and we feel like it's going in the right direction in terms of all the key phrases that you've been hearing recently, which is ESG and carbon footprint, energy efficiency, and everything like that. So because as a landlord or as a landowner, property owner, you want to know what you're getting into when you're purchasing a property or when you're selling a property, and this document and the certificate gives you nothing that you can hide behind. It has to be done by a third party. It can't be manipulated by the property owner. It shouldn't be manipulated by the property owner. And it is something that it's either there or it isn't there, and you get your rating, and that's essentially what it is. But at the same time, it also gives the property owner a chance to actually assess whether how the building was designed is actually how it is currently operating, which is a very big gap in the development industry currently, and it's a very big gap in the existing building industry. I know that the Green Building Council does have tools for that, like the existing building rating tool and stuff. However, they do look at things from a different perspective, and they take into account a lot of other factors, whereas EPCs takes into consideration particularly just the energy aspect of it, which is very, very interesting, and in my opinion creates or holds the largest kind of weight in that industry. So yeah, for landlords, it has been a very slow uptake. I'm not going to hide behind that. We're going to try and run away from it. We have experienced multiple issues. Speaking with other landlords and landowners in the space, I think I know of one other major landlord that actually has a building that's been certified. They took the time, they went through the process, and there's a number of hurdles in terms of the measurement methodology, in terms of the finding an accredited body, finding an inspection body, the time that it's taken to do that, and then the additional funds that it takes to do that as well. Not to mention the hurdles like the approved plans. We've got buildings that are older than me 10 times over, so we do not have plans for those things. Definitely not. And then we feel definitely there has been training in the industry. I personally attended training with the Green Building Council. We have sent a number of our staff, from facilities managers to handymen, for the training with the Green Building Council as well, just so that everybody gets a better idea of it. We have tried to educate some of our tenants as well, because that has been a kind of a buzzword with the tenants as well. They're like, this deadline is coming up. When are we getting the certificates? When can we start putting it out there? So we have tried to educate them and give them, access to those trainings as well. From a job opportunity perspective, I agree 100% with my two colleagues that it is a step in the right direction again. From data collection to administration work to building audits to measurements, it gives us the ability to start at a very low level and upskill individuals in a way that really isn't kind of looked at right now, and not just upskill them, but actually give them a career at the same time. And it's definitely something with the high unemployment rate that we have, youth in the country, it's definitely something that we need at this point in time. Although we have the hurdles, we definitely do want to comply, and we are looking to work with SANEDI, work with DMRE and ESCOM, and try and find a way that's amicable for both parties, and a way that both parties can get to achieve what they want, which is us getting the certificate. And again, for SANEDI and DMRE is actually getting all the properties registered onto the system, and every property within South Africa that actually has a valid EPC. Sure. Thank you.
Thank you. And now we get on to an effective party. The guy on my left-hand side is Mike Barker, who several of you probably know already. He sometimes grows a beard and then loses it. Mike is a consulting electrical engineer and building services specialist with over 30 years of experience in energy systems for sustainable built environment. He holds a BSc Lange from the University of KwaZulu-Natal. And Mike has overseen the certification and energy modeling of Africa's first lead silver factory in Gauteng. He's an active member of ASHRAE, IPCs, SAIEE, and IEEE. Now, the thing that's not immediately obvious about Mike as we sit here looking at him is that he's actually somewhat of a maven. Mike, if there's something going on in energy in the world, Mike invariably knows about it within 24 hours. And this guy has set up traps on the internet for this stuff, and he gets emailed condensed information every morning. It's absolutely amazing what he gets up to. So, Mike, I take my hat off to you and I give you a chance to speak.
Great, thanks, Marcus. You don't always believe everything that engineers say. Okay, so I've got some slides for you that we might run through. If you could jump to the other one. You know, we really need to go back and ask ourselves, one slide back. And we need to, forward one. There we go. We need to ask ourselves, why are we so interested in energy? What's this thing about energy that's got us talking about EPCs? Is it the carbon? We've all heard of the carbon. We've all heard of funny things happening to this world, extreme heat waves, things changing. It's got something to do with the carbon, right? But if we had to go and ask our property owner friends and the people doing training and even SANEDI, they'll probably say to us that there's a little bit more to it, and that's second slide. Thanks, Lloyd. It's got to do with the energy bill. That's probably the one and only thing that all of us are concerned about. It's the money. Okay? So we know instinctively that saving money can be done by using less kilowatt hours. Okay? That's kind of drilled into us. We know that switch lights off things, all those good things. But we've got to realize that the world is changing, right? And soon, energy will be nearly free, but power will cost. Be very careful when you think about this, energy and power, right? So energy will be nearly free, okay, but the power costs. So why is that going to happen? It's because we got renewables. On a Sunday afternoon when the wind is blowing and the sun is shining, we're probably going to have a lot of energy, and that's going to be made available at a low price. This is happening in Europe. This is happening all over the world, and I'll show you an example. But power costs. So if you want lots of power, think of your home. You're going to need an 80-amp breaker, right? So it doesn't matter how much energy you use, you're going to have this large breaker, and you're going to have to pay for that breaker. We know very recently that there was a big pushback against Eskom because Eskom wanted to charge 900 Rand if you got solar on your roof. Well, we got to think that may be reasonable. We don't want any anti-poor tariff schemes, and somehow people have to pay for services. So just bear in mind that the world is changing. Now, we've got the ability to shift, shape, and shed load, and that'll probably have a larger impact on the cost of energy in the future, right? So it depends when you use energy, and it depends on the rate of using energy, and that's power, okay? So you'll get the slide set. You'll see that there's a couple of little graphs there that are doing the rounds showing the difference between efficiency and efficiency plus generation, and then, of course, efficiency, generation, and shifting, shaping your load, because you want to try and get a flat load and get rid of this peak that South Africa is battling with. Guys like Chris Yelland and Engineer Coco and those guys across the spectrum, everybody seems to think we may have enough energy, but we don't have enough power. If you spread your use of energy throughout 24 hours, and everybody played that game with a flat load profile, we might not have the problems, the load shedding problems we have. Okay, next slide, thanks. So we've discussed energy. So I just wanted to show you, this popped up on my radar early this morning. The guys in Victoria, Australia, have got a new scheme out. They're going to offer 27,000 people the ability to have free energy between 10 o'clock in the morning and 3 o'clock in the afternoon. Why is that? Because they've got so much renewable energy on the grid when the sun shines that they can virtually give away energy for free. So for the next 4 years, they're going to be running this, and we're going to see a lot more of this. Energy is separate from power, and we've got to start thinking. Next slide. Thanks, Lloyd. Okay, so let's talk EPCs. So 10 years ago, when Barry and the SANEDI guys started thinking about all of this, EPCs were certainly a good idea. They're definitely still a very good idea. They're going to introduce a culture of awareness when it comes to energy and power. Okay, but we've got to ask about the timing. Right, introducing EPCs right now, it doesn't seem to be sitting well with my colleagues from SAPOA. It doesn't seem to be sitting well with the SAFMA people. My concern's number one, COVID can skew the results. So over the last 3 years, if the buildings haven't been fully occupied and we audit them now when they're not fully occupied, are we going to get the right numbers? Right, because we're trying to collect data to put it into the SANEDI database. SANEDI will tell you that they need that data. Government needs the data. We all need that data to start making good policy decisions. Okay, but if the results are skewed because buildings are empty, well, how do we handle that? Also, we know that commercial real estate is under a lot of pressure. The economy is not doing that well. We got COVID. This is something that they probably don't have a lot of money to throw at, and maybe not the right amount of enthusiasm. And I want to talk a little bit about that later. Okay, and the C&I market, commercial and industrial real estate market, are asking, when you talk to them, and perhaps you guys are asking the same question, they're asking, what's in it for us? Why must we go to this effort to produce these numbers? Why must we get an EPC? What is in it for us? Okay, and one of the things about the EPC at the moment is it's about energy usage intensity, EUIs. That's energy in kilowatts, kilowatt hours, things like that. Nobody's interested in that. Everybody wants to know, how much does it cost? Okay, how much are we using? What do we spend every month on energy? Now, the other thing that I'm party to, for my sins, I'm a member of a number of organizations, including ASHRAE. So this evening I wear my ASHRAE hat. ASHRAE, an organization, used to be a bunch of old Americans focused on air conditioning, but they're a much larger organization, 55,000 people around the world. And they work on things all the way from smart grids, standards for smart grids, through to the quality of ventilation of air in the buildings, quite important with COVID. So they work on many things, and I'm able to track the thinking of a lot of my colleagues, whether they're in India, Australia, even Russia, all over. Okay, I'm also a committee member of IPPSA, the International Building Performance Simulation Association, about 8,000 people around the world, architects, engineers, and they spend a lot of time thinking about energy. Okay, so one thing that's very clear is that EPCs have been changing, and the thinking about how EPCs are changing. This is an international issue. So yeah, we have poor old SANEDI jumping in and doing the right thing with the EPCs, but maybe it's just a little late in the game. We definitely need it. It's a great start. And for all of those of you perhaps wondering whether you should really do this, I want to show you that there's a new approach. There's a different approach we can take. And maybe the EPCs in the very near future might be changed to look at perhaps the way that modern buildings are shaping up. Now, yesterday the president said that they're going to be encouraging rooftop solar, for example. Now, that changes the way buildings use energy, right? A lot of things are going to be changing. Buildings are going to have batteries. Buildings are going to have EV, electric vehicles connected to them. And then this thing called energy flexibility is becoming quite a big thing overseas. And most importantly, maybe our EPCs and SANEDI will look at somehow taking money into account, because it's not just about kilowatt hours. We don't pay a flat rate. In the very near future, we're probably going to have dynamic pricing. The pricing changes according to the hour, right? So how do we take all of this into account? Energy use intensity, EURs, is just about kilowatt hours per annum, right? But we really need to look at it on a finer, granular basis, maybe on every hour. Okay, next slide, Lloyd, thanks. So we need a new approach to EPCs. Everybody around the world is thinking this. So the old EPCs, energy performance certificates, are static documents, and there's no real action behind it, right? You get your document that says you A, B, C, whatever your grade is, but then what do you do with it? Where do you go? We want to talk to you, I think, about squeezing the most out of the effort you're going to be putting into your EPCs. And we're going to suggest that you start thinking like a lot of the guys overseas. We start thinking in terms of energy performance contracts. And that's really a business model, right? So new EPCs, energy performance contracts, are more about the actions that can flow from understanding your use of energy. It's about the business case. My last slide. Okay, now you might not see all of that, but this is the ecosystem. And the outer ring we've got, and I can't even read that. I'm young and my eyes are good. Okay, so in the outer ring we've got policymakers, engineering companies, we've got the banks who finance all of this, maintenance companies, regulators, contractors, and the Munich's energy suppliers, Eskom. Okay, in the inner circle we've got the business model. And we've got to start thinking about how we can play the game and get a lot more value out of producing an energy performance certificate, which you see on the top right-hand side. That's more of a byproduct. If we do things right, we can do a lot. So if you looked at Kenya, for example, I do a lot of work outside South Africa. And if you looked at Kenya about 3 years ago, they said, well, we also need EPCs. We're just going to do it slightly different, look and see what Europe are doing. So they said every 3 years, you've got to recertify your EPC. If after 3 years you can't show a saving, I think it's of about 10% in energy, you pay a fine. So all of a sudden, action is needed. This is not a static document you hang on your wall or stick on in your drawer. All of a sudden, you've got to show that over a 3-year period, you're starting to save energy. Okay. The second thing that I think was pretty good, Kenya then said, look, every 3 years, auditing every 3 years is a bit of a hassle, a bit expensive. If you install a energy management system, an automated energy meter reading system into your building, and you track your energy, then you don't have to do the audits at all, right? You just have to, at the end of a period of time, print out the results from this automated system, and that's all you need to do. And that makes life a lot easier. And we see this happening overseas. There's a lot of focus in Europe now on EPCs, the general understanding that the EPCs didn't really work as well as they were hoping. It's not saving as much energy, it's not saving carbon. You've got to understand that saving carbon is not quite the same as saving kilowatt hours. It depends when you use your energy, as I keep pointing out. So with that, I'm going to leave you with the thought that we're on the right road with EPCs. You've got to look to squeeze the most value out of this exercise of getting your EPC. And you've got to start petitioning government, SANEDI, and saying to them, guys, it's a good start, but we now need to focus on the changing world we live in, and can't we start upgrading our EPCs and making them more meaningful to us as the building owners? Okay, it's got to have value to the building owners. And I'll leave you with that. Thank you.
Thanks, Marcus. Much food for thought. I had an aside here to Teslim that, Lange's just boilerplated the thing and got it going, and now you want to change it. Are we not suffering from evolution here?
We should have had the EPC 10 years ago, and Barry will tell you that, the SANEDI guys. But somehow it didn't quite happen, but it doesn't matter. We've got it now. We must start moving forward. It's going to change our culture. But we also have to think of the future. Yeah, in South Africa, we tend to not think of where we're going.
Yeah, I think part of the reason possibly is just because of the times. You know, we've suffered from COVID, and we've just gone through a round of load shedding. It's more sort of a survival view that we have, perhaps too much survival currently. But let's continue. Okay, I'll just ask a leading question, and then I think we must all pitch in, and let's see where this goes. Do EPCs make business sense? We've said it depends on the business model, but perhaps this is for you, Grewan. Does it make business sense to get involved in an EPC process?
That's a very open-ended question. I think you have to kind of look at it from two aspects. One is if it was as straightforward as we'd like it to be, where we appoint an accredited body and it gets done, then yes, it's the kind of a least amount of capex that we're able to put into the building, and you're able to recuperate that should you want to dispose of the property, or you can even use that to attract more tenants into that particular property and recuperate the cost that way. Currently, the way that it stands, I'd have to say no. And the reason behind that is it takes an average of a week to remeasure one commercial building. And that comes with a hefty professional fee that's on an hourly rate. There's also no standardization in terms of what the accredited bodies can charge us and can't charge us. So we get costings between 25,000 and upwards of 75,000 for the same building. And at that given point in time, once you're in with the professional fees, remeasuring the building, paying your accredited body, you're in for roughly, say, about almost 200,000, right? To recuperate that cost in the market that we're currently in from a rental perspective, almost impossible. To recuperate that cost from selling of a building perspective, also almost impossible, because of the fact that our buildings might have a higher value, but are you going to find somebody who's willing to pay that additional cost at this point in time? As Growthpoint, we are disposing of certain buildings, and I can tell you we've had buildings that come back 3 or 4 times with the deals to fall through, because the guys can't show equity, they can't show the fact that they actually have the money for it, and we end up letting the buildings go for upwards of 10 million rand less than its actual book value. So at this point in time, I'd have to say, unfortunately not. I'd like it to be, but unfortunately it's not.
Okay, you raised 2 very important points there. The one is cost too high.
Yep.
And that could be related to the scarcity of skills. It's not yet bread and butter. We don't have sufficient, potentially we don't have sufficient labor on the ground to get competitiveness in the charging. Would you say that the shortage is of that nature currently? I'm speaking to you, Yolanda, and you, Teslim. Is that really the issue currently that is causing the costs that Grewan is facing?
I think, let me take it first swipe at that. It could be multiple factors. If you look at a lot of things we do when it comes to technical signatories, I mean, they spent money to get to be technical signatories, to be certified bodies, and there's no standard template. There's no standard way to put a cost to it. Even if you look at public procurement as well, we're suffering the same thing as well. You do not have a standard for that. When you look at the amount of effort, I've gone into meetings where we've tried to look at a cost model, but it boils down back to the risk for the entity that's collecting that data. And you mentioned something here. I think one of the most difficult aspects is collecting that data. A lot of these buildings do not have smart meters. And even if you have skilled professionals, they have to really go out there and look for non-existent building plans. So multiple factors. Yes, EPCs are still new. The market forces of demand and supply will sort of ease that out as time goes on. But it's going to stay with us for a while. Those high costs.
Okay. It's for exactly that reason that we develop the QCTO EPC practitioner qualification, because there you will be paying a lower rate to do that work. Why should you be paying somebody with a BSc electrical engineering degree to measure up a building when you can use somebody who's an electrician who will be able to use a measuring tape as well as understand where's a meter, what to read there. So that is the reason why we developed that skills program, to support those bodies. Yes, I have seen some quotes come to us that are unreasonable. So there's a need for a salary survey. I've already discussed it just with Teslim. I've discussed it with the SAIEE, SANEDI, as well as the Black Energy Professionals Association. So there is something that we're going to put out, because we're finding that the quotes are there, but what they're paying the EPC practitioners is way down here. You could become an administrator and earn more that way. So there's some abuse in the market because they know the youth is hungry. But that's specifically the reason why we said we feel to target electricians as well, because you have a double whammy. You know, they already understand half of the stuff they need to. And there's a complete oversupply of electricians. So it's a way to upskill them into the green industries. So I have some. I did offer them to Growthpoint, but still waiting.
Okay. We'll chat after this.
Especially in Cape Town. So we were not able to find employers in Cape Town.
I've got a few ponies for you in Cape Town.
Yeah.
Great. Go ahead, Mondi.
Yes. Thanks, Collins, for those presentations. Very interesting, especially the one from Ghana. So I just want us to go back a little bit. Last year, on the 28th of July, we hosted Barry from SANEDI, where he was presenting about this EPC. And there was a deadline that he actually announced that all your buildings need to be compliant by December 2022. Okay. So we are now really interested. We would like to know if you have taken stock of what has happened and how far are we through that process now. In terms of percentage-wise, they have 90% of the buildings right in the country. So how far are we in trying to achieve that target? And does it look like we are going to make it for December 2022?
Okay. Thanks for that question. It's a 2-year window. A 2-year window ends by the 7th of December 2022. We only have the 130 buildings that are certified with EPCs. That is a very, very unreasonable number. We are now in discussions about an amendment to the regulation, not just on the time limit, but also, a lot of technical issues have come up on the regulation as well. Mr. Baker was able to pick up some issues. EPCs are not static. They are supposed to last for 5 years. And then we are supposed to, if you look at the life cycle of EPCs, really, the policy space is supposed to be able to use that data now to start to get buildings to commit to be more efficient. I think your midpoint is a grading of D for buildings. And we expect that after your first 5 years, you should be trying to aim for higher performance on those buildings. So there's an amendment to regulation coming up very soon that would extend that timeline. I think that regulation extension will also help with an increase in inspection fees, also an uptick of EPC practitioners, and also hopefully drive the cost down to hire these professionals as well. I hope that should be able to address issues around timelines.
Maybe, Chair, then I have a follow-up question to you. Are you guys worried that it's less than 1% of your buildings that have a certification?
Yeah, no, we definitely are. If I tell you some of the conversations we've had in the industry is quite scary because the not meeting the deadline comes with a hefty fine. It comes with possible imprisonment time, and the last thing I want is my CEO after me for either one of the two. But on the flip side, the scary part of the conversation then comes into play is that we're forgetting that the regulation also includes publicly owned buildings, and not only privately owned buildings. So for that, the conversations are then says, okay, we'll take the lead, or we'll follow by example. If we don't comply, DPW is not going to comply, or they might not comply in time. And if they don't, is the minister going to get locked up? Is DPW going to get fined for this amount? Because if they are, then fair enough, we'll follow lead. Then our CEOs can do so. But if not, then why should we, as a private sector, essentially take the lead on it? And Teslim and I were having a chat earlier on, and I said, the private sector currently has the ability to turn around and say, we're going to boycott the entire thing and we're not going to comply. That's not what we want to do, because then we're none better than anybody else in the country that just throws their hands in the air every time they're not happy about something. So we do want to comply. Again, timeline is very tight. I mean, if you look at it, when it was gazetted 2 years ago, there was one accredited body. One. Fair enough, in the past year and a half, we've got an additional 7, but is it enough to accommodate for all the buildings? I alone, as Growthpoint, have 474 buildings across the nation. Between myself and probably a TAC, there's over 600 buildings. 8 accredited parties are not going to do it, especially not in 6 months, let alone 2 years. So we are definitely very stressed about it. Sure.
Okay, can I just respond to that?
Yes, please.
Okay. You see, SANEDI is a research entity. We're not a typical government entity. And I would like to, we also struggle with some of the partners in the room. We do, to be honest. Because as a research entity, we see those figures and we could say, but you lead by example. So there's something on the table right now where we are saying, as SANEDI, that government needs to put also in place its own targets. Tell us, declare your buildings. Declare the buildings you have, put a target and say, by so time, all those buildings will be certified. And SANEDI is taking the first lead. We're now going to become an accredited inspection body ourselves. That process has started. I have a colleague in this room that's leading that effort. So SANEDI is going to be an accredited inspection body. We're going to put together a panel of small, medium price enterprises. We're going to also bring more EPC practitioners on board. Hopefully with that, we can now target the public buildings that meet that requirement. And if we can do that, I am sure the private sector will follow suit. And that's what it should be. Government officials should live to higher standards compared to the public. And we've said that very clearly, and we're trying to push that agenda. Yeah.
I was looking at him and smiling because just from what Grewan said, he was bringing out this thing that we all suffer with in South Africa, and that's comparative justice.
Yeah.
And that's what led to e-tolls. And this is where we might be sitting. Do you have any idea, how many buildings are in the ambit of government in South Africa that qualify for this requirement? What is the government stock in South Africa right now?
The government stock will sit with the Department of Public Works and Infrastructure. I couldn't get a figure from them. I'm developing a model right now that is looking at trying to determine what these government buildings are as well. So we've been trying to do audits in DMRE buildings, the mineral resources and energy. But shockingly, you don't have these figures.
Yes.
The figures are not there.
I'm aware that there are consultants who are regularly brought in to evaluate the state of the government buildings, and there is always this thing about they're surprised to learn that there are some that they don't know they had.
Yes.
So that it's a problem, and it's always been somewhat of a problem. It's not new. Is there anybody in the audience that can tell us how many governments are under control of building? How many buildings are under control of government?
Greater than 2,000 squares? Or is it
Yeah.
1,000?
1,000, yeah.
1,000 for government.
1,000 buildings.
No, 1,000 square
Okay,
meters.
yeah, but how many buildings are there out there?
And remember, government is not even just one. When you look at the 3 tiers of government, you can imagine how many buildings we're talking about: prisons, public hospitals. So this has come up, and yeah, parastatals as well. Schedule. Okay. Yes. State entities and all of that. Yeah. So you can imagine those figures.
You can't even build pit toilets. So to me, funding in the government sphere will be a huge problem. I'm not talking about my company. It will also be a huge problem. But in the government sphere, where we can't even pay people salaries and do basic services, it comes back to your question, sir. What's the value add? What's in it for government? For every EPC, that they need to take a grant away, to take something away. What's in it for government? And so, especially if you if you do it over a very short period, where you can't do anything about it, government would not have the funds to improve to a level D within 5 years. Literally, they have to build new schools instead of water schools. That's how they will increase the efficiency. So it's a complicated discussion.
Are you saying government is incapable of meeting the laws that it's regulated, that it's legislated?
I think so.
Okay, that is a
They currently can't keep up with the law. So if the more laws you bring in, that costs money and there's no provision for funding for that, you're going to sit with the problem unless you save money in the process elsewhere. So if you do your certificate and in the process, hopefully you discover that the building is horrendously inefficient and you put, insulation in the ceiling and you solve the problem. But you know how long it takes a government to put insulation in the ceiling.
Yes.
And how much it costs. So it's not an easy one for government, and I get your point.
But as a taxpayer, I would applaud government lowering its costs.
You see, Yolanda has a slide that spoke about that. Your slide on the steps.
I jumped
Yeah.
the queue and just give her a chance.
Okay, you should with that.
I want to talk to that. So you know that anything that affects climate positively, there's always money available for that. So government might not be able to get money to build a new school, but they would be able to access climate change funds to green the school. Then value for EPCs. So the way we've developed the QCTO qualification is not just to do an EPC. The way we've developed it is to add value. So the regulation does not include certain standards. It left out a very important one. And that is the SANS 50,002, the energy audit process. So if you do an EPC in accordance with the standardized 50,002 energy audit process, you will gather the correct data at the correct time, whilst not doing it to identify opportunities, but inadvertently, your report will show those opportunities if you follow the correct steps. So the value add for an EPC practitioner over and above an inspection body, because the inspection body, you can't make recommendations. But an EPC practitioner does not have the conflict of interest. They are going to prepare the building to get it ready for an for an inspection body. But in that same process, they have a report where they can make proposals. You are D now, but if you do X, Y, and Z, you can go and ask for an audit on your HVAC, or you can ask for additional audit on whatever, where you go into a level 2 audit, and then you can go and implement, and that's how you can up it. So that is what's the difference between doing high-level training for the energy managers out there versus following the correct steps. And I'm hoping the regulation is going to say, I have mentioned that this to SANEDI a few times, it must link to an audit standard, because at the moment, what's happening at SANAS is the experts are getting assessed. They get assessed according to their company, is their company quality management systems and ability to reproduce each EPC in the same manner in order, and are the people's skills up to the level of that. Now, if you do not follow the standardized procedures, everyone has their own way of doing it, you're going to get a different result. So if the regulation has that in, then it will make it much easier and you'll get more value for money because there will be a report available for you to see how you can improve and what you need to investigate on. The other thing is that we've got you can benchmark. So say if we have a company that has 1,290 buildings, they are training all their facilities managers to get their buildings ready to bring a inspection body in. They worked out, they're paying about 80,000 Rand for the training, but they're saving 20 million Rand on EPCs because they only have to get third-party verification done by the inspection body, which is, according to SANEDI, allowed. So now they're getting all their staff to get it ready to understand what has to happen. But it also then, So, what I'm trying to say is there is value add. I was my train of thought. So that company can now use the data of all the buildings, put it into one spreadsheet, and we can benchmark it. So this building is at A, and so where is the median of your building? So the bigger the gap between most efficient and least efficient, the more opportunity there is to get the worst performing building and to the level. So in your building portfolio, you can every time go to the worst performing building, put your money there and start making that gap smaller until your whole building portfolio is efficient. And that is what EPCs can do for you as well, because you have the correct data to do that. Don't need a lot of detail to do benchmarking. You just need the basic detail to bring them closer to each other. So there's definitely value for money. You're welcome to come to some of our training courses because we teach people how to do this.
Sure.
And we taught our students how to benchmark the buildings against each other, that they can see where the opportunities lie. I also want to speak to one of the issues. You said the impact of COVID and the accuracy of the EPC certificates. So there are formulas that have been developed to take that into account, which touches on measurement and verification.
But you don't have the data for that, do you?
Sorry?
You don't have the data to do those calculations.
Yes, you do, because you normalize it, and the regulation does provide for the normalization. But I can share it with you if you want to.
Okay, so ASHRAE are battling to understand how we normalize that. And you talked about level 1 and level 2. Are you talking about the ASHRAE?
We use the IPMVP protocol.
Sorry?
The IPMVP protocol has a formula for it.
I think we must take it offline. I think you'll be surprised at what ASHRAE are seeing about these things. But we can talk about that later. You spoke about level 1 and level 2 audits. Is that the ASHRAE?
IMVP.
Sorry?
That's your M&V.
Okay. That's fine. You're not using any of
No,
the
we do
ASHRAEs.
level 1 and level 2 is SANS 50002. However, SANS 50002 and ASHRAE are very similar. We do have a comparison of the two. We teach both in our international certifications because you need to understand both when.
All right. So ASHRAE, I mean, we may as well talk about it. These problems we're facing are fairly common throughout the world, and they've been, including the COVID issue, okay? It would be very interesting then to introduce you to a couple of things that ASHRAE are doing. They've got a free online system that does a lot of what you're talking about. Also, you're aware that there's ISO 50005 that's just popped up on the scene.
No.
Okay, so that's something you should start tracking as well, because that's going to make our life a lot easier. About 2 months ago, we spoke to the guys in the US, and the guys in Europe released 50005. The Brits and Europe are pushing 50005 as a way to instill an energy-aware culture amongst their population. So they're putting a lot of money in. You're right about the green bond money. Green bond money will chase carbon, It won't necessarily chase energy. So you've got to make sure if you are chasing green bond money and there's a wall of green money looking for a good home, what you've got to do is you've got to show that you're saving carbon. And that's, that's one of the things I'm saying about the current EPC. It's about energy. It should be about money, and it should reflect on carbon.
It does reflect on carbon to a certain extent.
Yes, no, I agree. So there's now a new movement that's come out from the United Nations. If you have a look at 24/7 carbon-free energy, what they're looking to do now is track carbon on an hourly basis. At the moment, carbon accounting is often a sleight of hand, where they look at total annual energy and they just offset against that. So the likes of the United Nations and the Googles and the Microsofts and all the guys in the world are now saying there's a better way to do accounting on the 24/7 basis. But let's just leave that. I think we've got to come back to EPCs as we have them at the moment, and where can we demonstrate to the people with the buildings that an EPC process can lead to value. So you're going down the right path. I just think we need to take it a bit further, and we genuinely have to think about maybe the data you're getting from the EPCs and how there may be ways to simulate and to generate that data via a different approach, because you're never going to get all. My understanding, there's 160,000 buildings in this country. We heard it from one of the energy groups. Roger, is that right? 160?
Yeah, that's from the SAEE. They said 160 to 180, depending how you measure it.
Yeah, so there's 180,000 buildings that need to become compliant.
Yes.
How are we going to do that?
The current categories.
Sorry?
It's only the current categories.
Yes, that's the current categories. I mean, is there anybody that disagrees? Even if it's 100,000, guys, how do we do that?
How?
So we need to think about it, but this is a wonderful opportunity now to instill this energy-aware culture amongst our young people, and you guys are working on that. Sorry, ma'am, over to you.
Can I just maybe add something? Last night we were greeted again with my fellow South Africans. And an offer on the table was that maybe everyone should move towards renewables. There's a lot of movement happening in the solar industry for that, and a certain mention as well to rooftop solar. So my question is, how will the EPCs not help you benchmark your building or your data towards having a smaller scale system available that will potentially be your investment on your building? So if we ask the question on how that return on investment will be for my building, which we are looking at, is won't that help you scale your system that you have to then install? And as Yolanda mentioned, a lot of the guys that's currently in the pilot program towards the students are qualified electricians that you could potentially, because they're already electricians, you can move it towards maybe a solar green card. I know there's a lot of options available there for training and upskilling further for installations. So won't that then also bring in a new aspect of how do we upskill our current student pool or youth, if we want to call it as such, to go into that just transition towards more green funding availability? So that's just something that I would like to...
Therefore, we need to track carbon, because people are going to throw money at saving carbon, not saving energy, and there's a difference.
Yeah.
You have to be very aware as well. At the moment, everybody thinks that the carbon associated with a kilowatt of energy is a constant. It's not. It varies. If the nuke is down, the nukes in Cape Town are down. It all depends. If the coal-fired drop and we're burning diesel, the carbon intensity of our energy varies on an hourly basis. And we need to take that into account, because there are times in the day when it makes sense to use energy so that you reduce your carbon footprint. Okay? It's got nothing to do with the kilowatts you use. In fact, they tell me if late at night, the carbon intensity is a bit higher. That would have been some guys at Eskom told me that. But it doesn't matter. Overseas, they're playing a game. They use energy when the carbon is low. There's a little app you can get for your phone in Britain that tells you when you should be baking bread. Okay? Because at that particular time, the North Sea wind is blowing hard. There's a bit of sun in England, and suddenly the energy is a lot greener than it was. And which, by the way, talking of apps, whenever I address this problem with our young people, they tell me, no problem, we'll write an app for that. But I think maybe we need to think a little bit about the automation of energy readings. The other one is our municipalities, in theory, should have records of the square meterage of every building, because how do you do your rates? So even if we just simply took the municipality recorded square meterage for each building and we took the energy readings through an automated system, we might be able to do these EPCs a hang of a lot faster. And this is what I'm seeing emerging out of Europe and out of elsewhere. Sorry, over to you.
The real job opportunities for EPCs is metering companies. So if you want to start a business, I really believe building owners will very quickly listen, we need to sort out our meters. And that's not good news necessarily for municipalities, because we know when you do build verification, there's always issues there. But I do believe that buildings like what's in SAPOA's portfolio, most of them are already aware. They belong to an association. They're already conscious of they own a building and they need to look after it. Otherwise, they wouldn't be a member of yours. So I think the EPC is more to focus and target those buildings that are not there yet. And I think there's a lot of them. Yusuf sitting there, I used to work for Energy Cybernetics. For 5 years, we ran the National Energy Barometer Survey for, in those days, the Central Energy Fund. And I recall visiting a certain province, I won't name names because you won't believe it, and we had bills for 300 buildings, and we went to every single site, and we only found 96 buildings, but we had 300 invoices that were paid every month. So I think maybe you've been discovering buildings that they never paid for, but we discovered both, that there were empty plots of land, or there was a Stutterford's in those days building and an ABSA bank, which was in a building paid by the government. So things like that. And I think, maybe EPCs will definitely save you money in the end. And let's face it, you can get a green star, and for how much? I think an EPC is a lot cheaper.
It depends on the accredited party that you appoint.
QCT practitioner, or just an inspection body. Yeah. So, but I think it will also get our house in order when it comes to being able to report internationally on what is the building stock, what is the building stock using. And so not only for data collection, also for future decision making. SANEDI needs to make decisions on what policies will be reasonable to be implemented. I recall in 2012, 2013, when the Science 1544 was being developed and 10400XA, and they threw out these numbers that were thumbs up. We had many arguments with Lisa Reynolds, and that myself and her had almost a boxing match because she completely misunderstood the readings. Only when we said, yes, the National Energy Barometer Survey, none of the buildings are even close to that. And so and that's because we had a little bit of data. Now there's an opportunity to get a lot of data. So we're only at the beginning stages, and I think everybody should just see it for the intention of it. I understand it's an old regulation and other countries are way ahead. We can't go there yet. We need to keep it basic. I think ours is more complicated than it should be, which makes it expensive. But I think we need to start somewhere, and at least to be starting.
No. Sorry. Bondi's got a hand up.
Okay.
Go ahead, Bondi.
Yeah. So I can't shake this off my head. The fact that the property owners do not see an appealing business case from the program. Could it be maybe the case of the way it's communicated? We talk about, you say so many kilowatt hours or so many kilowatt and carbon. They are running a business. So should maybe do we need to change the way it is communicated? Use an example of an average building. How many years will it take to break even, and what will be the rate of return when I have to embark on this? Because energy efficiency is expensive at the beginning. But then what we don't know is, how long will it take for you to make your money back? Should maybe the messaging be more in financial terms, or I don't know?
So I'll actually address that, and that was actually what I wanted to say. So it's not that, the thing is, it's not that it's not being communicated correctly. The thing is that private property owners have already been doing it. We just haven't been getting the EPC. So it's not like our buildings are not energy efficient. And I'm not sitting here saying that every single one of them are, but I know for a fact that a number of other private landlords as well as Growthpoint go through a whole energy audit of a building before a solar plant is actually put up. We make sure that there's energy lighting, efficient lighting in there. We make sure that, when you're putting up a solar plant, you put in power factor correction because of the harmonics that's created by the solar plant, as well as the LED lighting. You make sure that you're on the correct tariff optimization, whether you're paying for excessive power, you don't really need it, and so on and so forth. The reason why I say there's no value in it is because, again, we weren't waiting for the EPCs to do it. We can do it, and we have been doing it. Now we just have to pay an additional sum to get the EPC certificate. And the thing is, it's kind of like, well, if my building is already efficient, why do I need the certificate? Essentially, and that's the kind of the aspect that everybody is grappling with. And yes, we can do the business case and say, listen, fair enough, it's going to cost us 50,000 in this month, or this year, and we'll get the money back, if we recuperate via monetize it over rental, you monetize it over the value of the property, you monetize it over just the particular savings that you could potentially get because of the one or two initiatives that might have fallen through. Fair enough, but I don't think it is as lucrative as we would like it to be, essentially. But then again, what is? And at the same point in time, like you said, we have the building. We know that we need to save money. It went from a point of where a landlord, a client or a tenant looked at just rental. Who gives me the lowest rate per square meter? I'm gonna go. That's who I'm renting with, as long as they meet my needs. But clients have gotten a lot smarter now. They look at full occupancy. What is my rate of occupancy? That's your rate per square meter. What's your average energy cost? What's your average water cost? What's your average rates cost? All that sort of stuff. So you went from a place, and the market is so competitive now that you can't just offer a market-related rate per square meter based on rental. Your only differentiating factors is your energy aspects of it, your water aspects of it, your rates aspects of it, and then naturally your location. So it's not something that, the private sector had waited till now to do. I mean, I've been in property for the past 8 years. I started doing it 8 years ago. And I know of guys that have been in the property industry 10 times more than I have, and they've been doing it for years. So it's definitely not a thing that we don't see it lucrative. Again, it's just we ask ourselves the question, from doing it, why do I need to pay additional just to get the certificate? I'm already doing it. I'm essentially doing all the work.
From the floor? Yes.
So this sounds a lot to me like one of the big barriers is the human resource required to actually do the certification. And we're in a situation at the moment where we really have all the technology available to have automated metering. Is that not factored in at all in EPCs? And, like I've got a very simple solar system that gives me all of my graphs every day. And you can quite simply come to some very big conclusions about the energy efficiency of that building. Does that feature at all in the EPC?
It helps with bringing the cost down.
Yes, but it doesn't feature as a regulation, but I mean, it features in common sense. So it boils down to individuals. Just like he's saying, the private companies already have this in place. Public buildings do not.
In place of an actual audit where you have to go and count lights and count your load.
You almost don't even need to do that. If you have a facility manager that has an energy management system within the building, all of that sits at his fingertips. So private buildings have that. Public buildings might have such functions, but you will be shocked that they're not even serviced and maintained. So there's a lot of opportunity to, I mean, we even have an app that was developed for data collection. M&V measurement, energy audits for buildings is more complex, 10 times more complex than the audits for EPCs. So there's all of those opportunities there to be able to tap into such.
So just to add on what you were saying, and I know earlier on you said that the data collation is the most kind of intensive aspect of it. I can give you data for any one of my buildings across the portfolio in 5 minutes, because we have access to all that online information. At least 99% of my portfolio is on smart meters. So we're not worried about the cost of the data collation. We're not worried about the cost of putting in the energy efficiency technology, because I can justify that with a business case, and the business will easily take that on. I mean, we've got stuff like green leases and green addendums and so on and so forth that are in place and that help justify that. That was actually created by the Green Building Council as well. Our biggest concern, besides obviously the looming deadline, is again the market relatedness when it comes to those accredited parties and the variance in terms of that pricing, and the way the big cost comes in is remeasuring those buildings. Because in some cases, it actually costs us more to remeasure the building than it is to actually get the EPC certificate via your accredited party. And that's where, the kind of the toss-up comes in. Sure. And I'm not kicking you while you're down. I understand that SANEDI is stuck in between a rock and a hard place.
You have to say it as it is.
Yes.
You do.
Yeah. Okay. Question from the floor?
Yes, I'm on Teslim. I've also.
Sure. Welcome.
Thank you.
Welcome.
But so I just want to understand, because I've been following the discussion between your submission in terms of your problematic area. But what I'm hearing from you now, it seems like the real issue is the cost. If EPCs were done for free, you wouldn't have any issue with them. They are high.
Because I'm already doing it. I'm already doing all the work. So if a typical thing is, if you already have a car and you're already driving your car and your car's serving you a really good purpose, it's doing everything that you need to do, would you buy another car? There's no need for you to buy another vehicle. So from a landlord perspective, I'm already doing all the work. If it was a matter of saying, here's the data, give me my certificate, I'll happily do that, because I can easily provide the data and I can easily provide the information. But the fact that now I need to go into this entire aspect and incur additional costs just to get the certificate for the work that I've already done, that's where it's really not catching on for any of the land.
It certainly seems that there's more efficacy possible.
Yeah. Can I have a follow-up? Because
Please.
We all would love to issue our own licenses. That's super hard to ask, but we have to pay.
Yes.
Entity of public to do that online. Whole fairness. And the independence, again, you can't have independence on your own building.
No, completely understand.
It makes sense with that by that. But then I think from our side, our take is the cost is problematic.
Yeah.
And that is not taken. Maybe that's why we can communicate with stakeholders.
And I'll be honest with you, if the cost was standardized and there wasn't a big variance in it, and the measurement methodology, there wasn't a variance in that, and there wasn't a question around that, and that wasn't an additional cost that could possibly creep up, we'd gladly pay whatever it is we need to pay. Because again, we want to comply. There's no given point in time, I think you're ever going to find any private landlord, unless they hijack buildings or something to that effect, that turns around and says, we don't want to comply. We don't care what the government says or anything of that sort. It's just, again, it's these these issues and these indiscrepancies that we're picking up that is now affecting us in such a way that it's actually making it more difficult for us to comply. And when we come to the parties like SANEDI, or we take it up with DMRE and stuff like that, we kind of get a response to say, well, we're looking into it and we'll let you know. And then months go by and then we follow up, we're looking into it and we'll let you know. And again, no fault of SANEDI or anything of that sort, and we understand that the government does move a little bit slower than we'd like. But if it was just standardized and we had a benchmark that we could work against, we're going to benchmark our buildings, benchmark the price, and then we'll be able to do it, no problem.
Yeah, I'm sensing that we're getting into the bread and butter. It's not yet bread and butter, and that's the issues that you're facing.
Can I maybe just add something? And it was actually quite interesting, Stalin, that you noted the license list. So back driving the car, I mean, yes, we complain about the fuel prices, but we need fuel in the car to drive it. We've got the regulatory part of it where we have to renew the license list to keep it on the roads. But don't we then ultimately ask the question, and that's coming back to the building now, don't we want to maintenance our car yearly? So bringing it back to EPCs, I think the term is on a 5-year. Mm-hmm. So isn't that a proper investment into your vehicle that drives you, that ultimately...
No, I think you're missing the point.
Yeah, so that's
No.
I'm not fighting the EPCs. I'm not fighting the compliance. I'm not fighting the EPCs whatsoever. All I'm saying is that if there was a standardization, so again, back to the car, there's a standard for what you would be charged for your license disc. There's a benchmark, right? And there's certain criteria. It's your vehicle weight, engine capacity, age of your vehicle, so on and so forth, that is considered, and then you get spit out and say, well, you owe me $700, whatever, you pay $700, you walk away, you've got your disc. We're not fighting that. All I'm saying is that how can I have a 5-story, 1,000 square meter building? One accredited body gives me a costing of 25,000 Rand off of the exact same scope, and another accredited body gives me 75,000. I'm providing the data. It's an energy efficient building. I'm not expecting anything lower than at least a B. I'm giving you everything. You need to come out as an inspection body, verify, which will probably take you a day to do so, right? And then do the admin work on your side, register the building and do everything that you're supposed to do as I'm appointing you. But I've got 3 times.
Is that really a problem? Is it not just about getting enough quotes?
We don't have to do the M&V. You can just do it the way other people do it overseas, the way that Kenya wanted to do it. Put in a system, gather the data, just submit it. Your auditor, the guy who does your finances, can check it out. You really don't have to go with this crazy M&V stuff. Why do you really need to do this heavy-duty M&V stuff? All you need is the floor area, right? SAPARA defines floor area pretty well. Yeah. Your rates and taxes are based on floor area. Then you take 12 consecutive measurements over a year, okay? Divide it, and then you got it. And again, I'll say to you that the energy, the EUR, isn't the issue. It's the carbon. The way you get money is from the carbon.
Okay, alternative currency again. Lloyd, you...
I'm done, my bad.
Did you? Okay.
Yeah,
Gent on the left.
What my point was is we're facing the same thing in the private sector, is that there's no normalization of the authority if there was one board. And they obviously are moving in that direction with the laws that are being passed, that the developers are doing this. They are employing these metering technologies throughout. We've had developments where they were passed on building of the year because it was too expensive to get a green building council or passed on their building. And it really is. That's the reality of it. It's so diverse. It's the normality of it. I mean, that was a question I wanted to pose earlier. Is there movement towards having one authority on these standards? I don't know. I mean, this is something which was a question at the start of this. Is it something that they're moving towards? One normal body to govern all the authorities?
What, internationally or locally?
Standards on buildings.
Like, for example, with the license, there's one body, there's one price, there's one
regulation that would be governments.
not 20 regulations.
EPC is designed very differently. EPC has the EPC regulation sits now with the Sinus accredited inspection body. He issues the EPC. He's not a government official. He's a business of his own. So that design already is what I can see that it causes a lot of confusion because it's not government collecting data and issuing a building. It's a private individual using a standard. No, not that he created himself. Created by a government entity on standardization, SABS, but he's an individual. He runs a business. He needs to factor in all his risk and cost drivers. So
The problem is there's no enforcement of it. I mean, you don't have to do it. There's no monitoring. The guys are doing it to save energy, but there's no guideline for enforcement. So it's go to one or the other. I mean, at some point there may be this deadline which will be extended.
Yeah, the Act does provide for monitoring of it.
and enforcement.
Yeah, and that would be done by the DMRE, and they can appoint anybody to just check on you if you have it displayed in your care. So, and then with regards to the standards, I know there's some discrepancies between how SAPOA defines square meters versus how SANS 10400XA does. There's also discrepancies with the classification of buildings, and I believe all those have been posed to SANEDI to look at. So there are some grey areas.
Yes, SANS 10400 is the norm.
Yeah.
On most.
But the National Energy Building Performance Register will be managed by, is housed within SANEDI, but they're doing it on behalf of DMRE. They're doing it as an order of the Minister of
Energy.
Minerals, Resources and Energy. So that is the mandated. Right. The Green Star and others, lead building, and those are all voluntary schemes. So you don't have to do that. The EPC, and the EPC is supposed to be cheaper than the green stars. And don't take the expensive one, take the cheaper one.
But it goes beyond that. It actually goes beyond that. So it's actually twofold. So the one is obviously the lack of standardization from an EPC perspective. But then the second one is the cost for remeasurement of buildings. So each building that we certify, because all our buildings are actually measured according to the SAPOA standardization, and most of DPW buildings are actually measured according to SAPOA standardization as well. For every building we need to certify, we have to incur two costs.
Yes,
remeasurement and recertifying. And we sat in a meeting, I personally sat in a meeting with the guys from SANEDI, DMRE and stuff like that, and they turned around and said, send him the plans. He'll just look at the plans and he'll be able to give you the new measurement. And no self-respecting architect or auditor is actually just going to look at the plans. They're going to want to come out to the building. They're going to want to verify it, because I could have just made this entire building up or sent him the plans for half of the building, and nobody's going to be none the better. And that's the true kind of overarching issues. So if we get the measurement methodology done and we're able to standardize the costing, even if we're able to get the measurement methodology done at this point in time, and it takes a little bit of time to standardize the costing, we can work on standardizing the costing. That's fine. It's that measurement methodology that is now, instead of the data collection that's taking time, it's the measurement methodology that's taking time for us.
Are you using an architect to do that?
Well, we have to, according to the standard and the guideline, we have to. We can't just use anybody. Unless we use one of your guys, but we have to use a trained professional.
There's a room full of engineers.
You can't train an electrician to look at a complex drawing and work out square meters that easily.
The regulation doesn't require you to have an architect or a verified. There are buildings there that don't have plans, where they take the measure. No, that have EPCs. They still don't have plans. They haven't had an architect.
Yeah, because they have to go in and measure it, right?
They measure it, But now we're a room of engineers, and I'm always having this argument on our various marketing groups. working with engineers a lot. You know, they'd rather, the architect's not shy to charge, but the engineer can't. Ever. Everyone always has a problem with that. And I'm finding that, yeah.
Yeah, so thanks.
Sorry for any architects, but it's true.
So, no, here.
Just a last one.
They're making money elsewhere.
Sorry, continue, please.
Yes, I was saying from Sapa's slide, I think maybe the downfall is when the EPC regulation was decided in 2018 for comment, you missed an opportunity to raise most of those.
No, we gave comment. There was comment.
Raise all these issues.
All these issues were raised in the meeting that we actually had like a couple months ago with SANEDI and DMRE. They had actually acknowledged the fact that all these issues were raised at public comment and the gazette, and it was still gazetted. So I know for a fact that SAPOA raised comments, and as well as a few of the SAPOA members raised comments individually. So it's not something that SANEDI didn't know, or DMRE didn't know about before it being gazetted. I remember reading an article about EPCs back in 2014, where DMRE and SANEDI were working with the Green Building Council in order to actually bring the tool into South Africa and customize it for South African buildings. And it was raised then by the guys of Solid Green that the Green Building Council worked with, and I know personally, as well as the GBCSA. So it was never a thing of DMRE didn't know and now it's an issue. As far as I'm concerned, they always knew. They just, whether they cared or not, is a different question.
Okay, we need to tie up now. I think.
Last question, Marcus.
Yes.
This one is on the training, specifically for you. Please correct me if I'm wrong. I think the training was done between two provinces, Gauteng and Western Cape.
Yeah.
And between two deputies in both provinces. So what is the plan to expand this training to other provinces and also other FETs? So at least the young people also in those provinces can also benefit from this.
Yeah. We got a lot of inquiries and still do. Actually, had a poll whilst we were in our training today from KwaZulu-Natal. They're very hungry for it. Unfortunately, you need money because you need to train the lecturers that they can train it properly. Obviously, energy is electrically based. However, you do need to look at the chemical side of it, mechanical side of it. So it does require specific training for the lecturers to get that message across. So we've applied for funding to, done a proposal to GIZ again and to the Energy Water SETA. And I've got a meeting with the CEO of the Energy Water SETA on, I think it's the 7th of August, to discuss that. So we would like to deploy it everywhere, but obviously we would need mentors in those areas. We've already secured a group of buildings in Durban to be audited. And the National Business Initiative, they have some industrial zones where they need buildings audited, so they've asked for specific projects to be run there. So a lot of funding applications have gone out. But yeah, that's because you need to pay stipends for the students and travel to food. That stuff.
Thanks.
Okay, we've got perhaps opportunity for one more question from the floor, and then I'll wrap. Any?
I can take it.
Can give him.
Yes.
Thanks, Bondi. Okay.
Well, it's not a question, it's more a proposal. Going forward, you can vegetate past, but it's becoming, Mrs. Google tells me there's 30,000 schools in South Africa, and most schools have got more than one building. But that's like 50,000 buildings just there, which I'm pretty sure will not see a single EPC before the end of this year. Is it not a possibility to phase it in size-wise with a very rough, broad assumption that the bigger the building, the bigger the energy consumption and the bigger the likelihood of savings, especially for parastatals and governments and so on, that you rather start with the 10,000, the 100,000, not the really big buildings first, give them tight deadlines because they probably won't have drones in the government sphere and there's going to be a lot of work required. And they can do some of that in-house, like you said. But if you start phasing it and say this, and you give because it also helps you to develop the training the execution capability. And you have a little chat with the TPW at the same time. So look, this is what we think, and it allows us to gently get the market going, get the inspectors going, and the various people you need to support it. And that government must play a role, and they must upfront stipulate and be held accountable. But you start big, and then every 2 years you say, okay, now we need 8,000 square meters. Now for whatever your numbers are that you cover. Just a thought.
Well, certainly there's benefit in a Pareto kind of approach. Although the costs will be high with the initial ones, so there's the
I can talk to that. We've had quite a few presentations with the Department of Education. They're very willing to get it going. However, there's a bit of a hold on government tenders. And then remember, very many schools don't make the 1,000 square meter because each structure is one building. So you often schools have maybe one of the buildings, but a lot of little. So
yeah, but his concept applies. Yeah, your concept does apply to public buildings to a large extent, facing it in.
Okay, thanks. Just a final comment from my side, and then I'll ask CBI to come up and say a couple of closing words. It seems like we have a bit of a disconnect on the commercial building side, certainly, because there is this thing between an owner and a tenant, and where the responsibility ends, and in whose interest it is to manage energy. And I'm sure you're an expert at that. But to me, that's interesting. The other thing which has come up is the opportunities for gaming the system. I think you've said that there is an issue here with standardization. If you get one crew in, you'll get an answer. If you get another crew in, you might get a different answer, and that is a concern. And obviously, that's getting a process which is kind of coherent, so that different crews give you the same answers, is obviously a necessary outcome of training. From our side, as the co-chair of the Load Research chapter, I'd like to thank everyone for coming this evening and for giving their input. Once we are finished, there are snacks outside, so please join us and have a bite and a natter. And if we could ask CBI and thank them for their inputs. Yeah, if you can come here closer to the mic, that would be great. Thanks.
Right, so I'll go back to the
Back to the panel.
Thanks to the panel.
Thank you.
So, everybody, thank you very much for allowing us to at least partially host this. The reason I say partially host is because you're probably wondering why CBI. So I think you probably all know us as the circuit breaker people. We've been around for 70 years. But what's changed recently, and by recently I mean in the last 2 years, we've basically gone from a standing start to being within 6 to 8 weeks of launching our energy management system. And it talks to an awful lot of the points that have been raised today, which is around what is the cheapest, easiest, quickest, most effective, most flexible way to find out what energy your building is using. And I think one of the strongest points is around if you don't know what your problem is, you can't do anything about it. And I think that's part of the reason that a lot of people haven't done an EPC is they're actually too scared to know what their problem is. Particularly because once they know their problem, they probably have to remediate it, and then it's going to cost them money. So the solution we're launching in 4 weeks' time at the Power and Electricity Show is basically a managed energy monitoring solution. So it's basically Wi-Fi based smart meters, and that's because it's cheap, it's quick, it's easy, it's effective, it's low cost. We put in lots of meters, we gather the data, everything's good. Soon after that, there'll be a managed energy management system where you can automate your loads. You've got a single and a 3-phase meter, great. You've got a rail mount controller, an isolator mount controller, and a plug mount controller. They can all switch 40 amps, although the plug is smart enough to know that it shouldn't be switching 40 amps. But what we think is you stick the automation and the measurement capability into the low voltage network. It's cheap, it's quick, it's easy, it's effective. And that talks to a lot of the points that have come up today. So I'm not going to hold you any much longer because I'm between you and a glass of wine. But I think one of the big problems is that we're in a situation where there are 4 pillars to our energy future, and that's embedded generation, ideally a carbon neutral or at least a carbon friendly generation capability. There's storage. Without storage, you can't really take much advantage of the renewable space. There's automated load management. And the second question you might have had is, why are you here today as CBI in this particular forum? Is because there seems to be an incredible shortage of information about consumption. I can go to Google right now and I can find 1 million different bits of information about the generation, the sale of energy, the trading of energy, but it's incredibly hard to find out anything about how do businesses, how do farms, how do homeowners actually use the energy, why do they use it, when do they use it. So the reason that we're here today is we want to be very involved in this particular chapter, because this is kind of the nose tone of any kind of energy future. Is if you don't understand how and why people use energy, you can't reduce how much energy they use. And reducing energy is the only real objective of what we're doing, because it's all very well, you put some PV on your roof and now you're going super, we're carbon neutral. But now you're using tons of energy, you don't understand economic externalities of a PV plant. Right now we're worried about carbon in the atmosphere. Tomorrow we probably should be worried about the ecological impact of mining for lithium. So I appreciate you being here. We're going to be launching as a business in the next couple of weeks. So CDI electric low voltage will be CDI energy. The reason why we only could put a little bit of money towards this event is because we don't yet have a marketing budget. But our financial year starts at the end of September. So then we're going to have an actual company to actually come and kind of put investment back into these kind of forums. So thank you for your attention, and I really do hope to talk to some of you out there, because I think this is a particularly interesting group of people. And if you have to head home, then have a safe journey back, and good evening.
Awesome, man. Nice talk.